Hey guys, quick recap of week 2 of the NFL. Pretty good Sunday. I went 5-2. I'll go through the games quickly here. I had San Francisco to cover 10 points against Seattle. Again, it was the week of can you adjust and not believe everything you see in week 1, and that carries throughout the entire season anyway. The NFL, different than a lot of other sports, where if you look at the NBA, if you pick the better team, more often than not they're going to win. The NHL, same for the most part. Major League Baseball, NFL is kind of, because it's a shorter season, because the teams are very close. It's a very tight market. So really, you're going to have 5 teams every year that are just terrible. You're going to have 3, 4, 5 teams, 6 teams, whatever, that are playoff teams, but maybe not a true Super Bowl contender. They need some things to go their way. They got to stay healthy, a little bit of luck, all that stuff. And then you have 3 or 4 teams that are elite, that are Super Bowl contenders, and if they can stay out of their own way, they should be there at the end. And then you have 10 to 15 teams that are in the middle, and they're very, very close, razor thin. So really, when you're betting teams, you're not really betting the teams, you're betting situations, you're betting scenarios. There's a lot of different factors that come into play in the NFL versus other sports, where you can just kind of look at a game and, the odds and all that kind of stuff are baked into it anyway. But the NFL is very, changes so much week to week. There's so much variability involved. So with week 2, San Francisco was one that a lot of people weren't on. Seattle was definitely the public play after winning week 1 against Denver. San Francisco losing to Chicago. People did not want to lay 10 points with the Niners. They came out, lost their quarterback in the way, but came out and won easily. Green Bay, another one, 10 points. People were in love with Chicago for whatever reason after their week 1 win against San Francisco. Green Bay came out of the gate slow like they usually do and lost. They won fairly easily as well. I took Arizona. It was another one. Vegas lost week 1. Vegas is not going to start 0-2. A lot of offseason pickups there with Devontae Adams and Chandler Jones, and a lot of hype around Vegas. Arizona looked terrible in week 1. No one wanted Arizona. 6-point dog. They came out and won a comeback win, won in overtime. New England was another one I picked against Pittsburgh again. I was on Pittsburgh week 1. People really didn't want to take Pittsburgh in week 1 against Cincinnati, and I was on the Steelers just because, again, of this scenario, the matchup. I went through it last week. Pittsburgh won the game. People all of a sudden say, oh, Pittsburgh, maybe they're better than we think. New England didn't look great in week 1. They're going to struggle this year. Don't have a lot of offense. And, I faded Pittsburgh week 2 on New England. They win this past week. Green Bay, San Francisco, Arizona, took New England. So really adjusted in week 2 and try to find those matchups that, really, if you bet against the public teams, you're going to do fairly well. Those teams were fairly public that I went against in week 2. And then I also talked about the Jets and the Browns. Now, a lot of comebacks in week 2. The Jets were one of them where they got really lucky. But I did warn you guys, be careful with the Jets in week 2. Cleveland -6 looked really easy. Yeah, they should have won the game. I watched the highlights. They should have won the game. But, it was a bad spot for the Browns. So if you play that game 10 times just as is, Cleveland probably wins that game anyway, 8 out of 10 times. But in that situation, maybe it's 5 out of 10 times, right? They came off a big win in week 1, beat Carolina, former quarterback. Short week now, going against a divisional opponent in Pittsburgh. You have the Jets in the middle. I knew that they scored a late touchdown, missed the extra point, it was 30-17 and all that stuff, but that game was pretty close right into the end, and then the Cleveland kind of opened it up, and then, they fell asleep, gave up the big 65-yard touchdown, and then onside kick, and they ended up losing the game, and the Jets won. So I don't know when the last time the Jets won on the road as nearly a touchdown dog. I'm not sure. I saw this funny stat, though, where the Lions, the Jets, and the Jaguars all won on the same day for the first time, and I think in equivalent to like 10 years. It was pretty, like 4,000 days, something like that. It's crazy. So that's the 5 I got right. Now the 2 I was off, Carolina for the second week in a row. I just lost with them. They lost to the Giants by a field goal. I think the first week too, they lost by, I believe, 2 points to Cleveland. So yeah, I was off in that game. Not a big deal. New Orleans was one. I did like the Saints. Again, Tampa Bay did nothing offensively for the second week in a row, but I don't know if it was Tampa's defense or the Saints just couldn't get anything going on offense, but they couldn't score. So for the second week in a row, I went against Tampa Bay, took Dallas in week 1, took New Orleans in week 2, and the defense, they played well. I mean, the Bucs have only allowed, 13 points in 2 weeks. So, but aside from that, 5-2, so it's a good start. 5-2 this week. The first week, I believe I was 3-1. I took some money line picks, but I'm not going to count those as wins because they're mixed into a parlay. So I took Miami week 1 against New England. I took Baltimore week 1. I think they played the Jets. I'm not going to count those ones as wins. But the first week I got 3-1. I took the over in the Eagles and Lions 47.5. I took the Chargers against the Raiders the first week, and then I got a third one right. I forget which one it was, but 3-1 in the first week, 5-2 this past week. So 8-3 to start the season. I don't remember what that third one was in the first week. I think it was I don't know what it was. I remember I took the over. I took the Chargers, and then I don't remember. I don't have that ticket in front of me anymore. But it was anyway. It was a solid week. I remember I got the Carolina one wrong in week 1 as well. So, but anyways, week 1, you're more or less just kind of. You're betting blind. You don't really have much information to go off of. But week 2 is a nice week for me because I'm not even watching these games. I'm still away, but it allows me to bet really with not just what's on paper and that kind of stuff and the teams, but again, situations. And I've seen this many times over the last 5 or 6 years where you teams look really good one week, and then the next week they come out and they're a little bit slow. So, or they just don't. The public jumps all over them, they overreact, and then they end up losing the game and pissing a lot of people off. So, anyway, good week 2. I'm happy with the Green Bay, the San Franciscos. The Jets, even though I got a little bit lucky. The New England. Those are all ones that I'm pretty happy with, and so we're just going to roll into week 3. Good start to the year. I'll have these games out in the next few days, and then kind of go from there, and then from next week 4 it will be back more to a regular where I can actually watch the games and everything. But otherwise, I hope you guys had a good week too. A lot of comebacks. I was watching the highlights. The Arizona one, the Miami. I don't know what the hell happened. I think Tua had 6 touchdowns. Crazy. Just some crazy games week 1. Buffalo, jeez. They might be a team like Baltimore was a few years ago, where they just run through teams in the regular season. But the difference is that Baltimore team wasn't battle tested at all. It was just a young Lamar. No one's ever seen. Defenses just couldn't pick up on that type of play. But Buffalo was battle tested. If they can stay healthy, they're going to be. They're obviously the front runner right now, but they look good. So we'll see. I don't know who they're playing week 3, but I can only imagine what the spread is. I mean, yeah, look good. Anyways, guys, good luck. Upcoming week, I'll have these games out in the next few days.